When it comes to the issue of HIV and AIDS, many people think that there are higher rates in places like New York and San Francisco. But researchers at Duke University wanted to see whether or not that was actually the case, and the results of their study is actually pretty surprising. According to their report, HIV diagnosis rates and death rates are higher in the South than in any other region in the United States. So here's how the researchers did their study here. The research revealed that beginning in 2003, the 5-year survival probability among those diagnosed with HIV and AIDS in the South was lower than the national average and that of any other region. So not only are people more likely to get HIV or AIDS in the South, they're also likely to die a lot faster as a result of it. And they do state a number of different reasons why. There could be an issue with education there. Remember, comprehensive sex education is extremely important, and when you only teach abstinence-only education, people are not equipped with the information necessary to prevent themselves from sexually transmitted diseases. But there's also the issue of stigma. If people feel embarrassed going to the doctor, or if they feel embarrassed taking the medication, they're less likely to actually go through with the treatment, and they die as a result of that.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It affects African Americans more. So, you know, when you hear South, don't have necessarily preconceptions about what that means, et cetera. Let me read the last graphic here. The study also found that in 2011, those diagnosed with HIV in the targeted states represented 38% of all individuals diagnosed in the entire country that year. So that's just the number of states in the South, and it's 38% of the whole country that has the cases. And almost a quarter were female, and 57% were African American.
Come on.
So, but the culture in the South is the same, whether it's white, black, or otherwise. It's conservative. And so the idea is, you know, you cover up sex, you don't talk about sex, and you don't have comprehensive sex education. It's something that is shameful.
The education system is poor to begin with, compared to the rest of the country. We've all seen the lists. We know where Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama are.
Yeah, and there's one other factor. You have to jump through more hoops to get treatment. Because there's this thing like, you're faking it. Who fakes AIDS?
Yeah.
You know, like, if in order to get anything in the South, because they're more conservative, they're like, oh, yeah, you got to prove to me that you're really poor and that your kids are about to starve. You got to prove to me that you got HIV, you're about to die. Except if you're about to die, sometimes you die.
I wonder if it's really about them thinking people fake it, because that doesn't make any sense. I think it has more to do with wanting to punish people who have sex.
There's also a, you know, I mean, look, imagine what we know of so much of leadership in the South, and now you're going to present a poor black guy who's got AIDS, which means a poor black gay guy, or at least a poor black down low guy. I mean, no, they're not going to rush to help
at all.
I mean, ever. It's just that's the way things are down there. And so I can't imagine I can't imagine a worse place to be poor and black and gay and sick.
I've done work in the South as a black gay male with HIV/AIDS advocacy groups, and the amount of disrespect and lack of interest from policymakers, from officials on this topic is just disgusting. But it goes back to what we talked about with, you know, Tiny Doo-Wop and everything else. I mean, these lives are not mattered. And until we start having real conversations in rooms that matter about why the fact that these numbers are increasing, why the outreach is not there, why you're not getting in the schools and giving them the knowledge that they need, where's that stigma? Why are you not getting in the black churches and saying, hey, stop shaming your children for having sex, first of all, but then stop shaming them if they do have a disease. Yeah. Stop making them feel that they're less than. These are things that we need to start having these conversations about. And unfortunately, it seems as if no one wants to have it.
So the CDC, of course, gives money to certain states to combat issues like this, and they funnel the least amount of money to southern states. And I think part of that could be maybe state, you know, representatives don't want the money. I don't know, but I think a larger part of it has to do with just the stereotypes surrounding this virus, right? A lot of people think that it is these big metropolitan cities where people are liberal and people are having premarital sex, but no, that's not the case. This is likely to happen in places where people are not given the education necessary to prevent it.
Yeah.
You know, I worked in South Carolina for 5 years. I was a reporter, and you know, some of the best guys I met fighting against Charleston was a fairly progressive city, but in a backwards state, right? And some of the smartest guys and the guys who made a bigger difference were the guys who ran what was a big thing then. I don't know if it still is a big thing, but midnight basketball, right? Sort of providing kids, almost exclusively black kids, an opportunity at night for organized, safe activities, people together. They're playing basketball, it's organized. And I got to know these guys, and they were always taking kids on trips. And they were all men of God. They were all pastors who ran this thing, right? And then you'd get into one conversation with them, and they'd be like, and you're thinking like these guys are like, they are the natural disciples of Martin Luther King. These guys are literally doing God's work. And then they'd say, yeah, except we saw a couple of guys. They seem like fags. And
No,
I'd be like,
that's
what? I'd be like,
the
what?
issue.
What just happened?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we're not the gay kids. So
That's the issue. I mean, I grew up in the South, and I can't tell you the reaction that I got growing up there about when I disclosed my sexuality or let people into my life regarding my sexuality, and how their belief in me or their view of me changed. And that sort of perpetuated into how these young black men and these young black women who don't have any access to services, don't have any access to education, now they're like, the only place I have to go to is church. And my church has already told me that I don't care for you. I don't like you at all. And so now how am I supposed to get services? Why would I rather not just suffer in silence than go to you and have to be ridiculed in public? And that's the issue.